Okay, so I'm back to do my October, November, December film wrap up. Finally closing the year of 2019 with what I have been watching. So the first thing is taking it back to October, where I saw a live show thing called Circus Wonderland, which I gave 4 stars. So this was fun. It would have been better with family and that, but it was still very much fun. That made no sense, but you know what I mean. Some good entertainment, some cool tricks, definitely recommended. Again, mainly if you take your like young siblings, cousins, nephews, nieces, that sort of stuff. After that, I checked out Beyonce Homecoming over on Netflix, which I gave 5 stars. So it's showing her performance at Coachella. This looks like one of those legendary concerts, so I was so glad to finally watch it. I wish I was there. I loved the older songs blended in with the newer tracks. Adored the marching band, baton twirling, military cadet theme, well, you know, Homecoming. It reminds me of Diversity a bit with like the movements that they were doing, you know, the dance group. I positively squealed with Destiny's Child included in this. It was amazing in being a cultural movement and entertainment, and I couldn't stop singing and dancing. Next up, I checked out Nanny McPhee which I gave 4 stars. After hearing about the original character of Mary Poppins, I feel like Nanny McPhee fits that far better. She's quite horrible, but actually it's an interesting lesson for those bratty children. I realised I already have seen the politician from Years and Years and Everything. She's also Nanny McPhee, but I didn't recognise her at first. That would make sense if you've seen any of me talking about Years and Years, a TV show on the BBC. I watched Neverending Story, gave it 5 stars. It's one of my favourite films ever. I always forget how quickly the Artex scene comes up, and it makes me cry every single time. I went to cinema to watch Joker, the 2019 release, which I gave a 3 star, which might be a bit controversial because I think everybody absolutely loved it. I just found it a bit strange. Like, I went in knowing it wouldn't be like a DC film, but it was incredibly unsettling, touching on a sensitive topic of mental illness and the decline from that. It's something that it's something that I think an acquired taste would enjoy, and a film I wouldn't watch again in a hurry. I wouldn't say it's bad at all. It's just that I have to be in a specific mood to see it again. It made me feel strange afterwards, like melancholy almost, but it was fantastic, the interpretation they had of the Joker and how he wasn't just like crazy, like madness strikes, ha, out of his mind. It was actually, he had a mental illness and he just wasn't cared for in the way he should have been. Society was shit to him, he wasn't getting the help that he needed, and a lot of stuff. So I found it interesting the way they took it. Then I watched one film that I had recorded on the telly, and that's Valerian in the City of a Thousand Planets, which I gave a 3 star. I like the main character. He was in a film called A Cure for Wellness, and I always love a bit of Cara Delevingne. So basically these two race against time to stop a dark force from jeopardising the future. It's set on like a futuristic 28th century setting. Everything was really cool, like the blend of real and realistic animation, but I just didn't connect with the storyline, unfortunately. Because of this, I kind of got lost and missed out when things were connected and the bigger plot was developed. I'd say on a surface level, however, it was very enjoyable and visually very, very pleasing. I was glued to the ending, so I feel like I would have to kind of re-watch it to piece together how the plot developed to make that make sense. I thought the Pearl People had a James Cameron Avatar feel to it, and I got the sort of confirmation I needed when reading up on the film, which was pretty cool. It's nice to be able to connect to particular directors' styles and stuff and be like, oh, that seems familiar, rather, and be like, oh, they had some sort of input. It's pretty cool. Taking it to November now, I watched The House of Magic, which I gave a 3 stars. So this is about Thunder, a cat that gets left behind by his family when they move, seeks shelter from the storm and finds himself with a magician. It was cute. I sort of ended up having it as background noise, but whenever I glanced up and watched it for like big things, I enjoyed it. But yeah, it's kind of not really left that much of an amazing impression in my mind. Then I was trying to get into a Christmassy mood a little bit, so I watched Let It Snow on Netflix, gave 3 stars. So yeah, it was a new Christmas film from Netflix. I was in the mood whilst wrapping gifts to watch something festive and was excited to see some people are liking it. So there's got the actress from Sabrina, the daughter from Santa Clarita Diet, and Spidey's best friend. So a snowstorm hits a small town on Christmas Eve, which affects the friendships, love and future of high schoolers. It doesn't really sound incredibly interesting, but I thought I'd check it. It had the cringe these films tend to have, very insta-lovey, which I tend to hate, but it was fun and sad and a little bland in the overall plot, but still decent. I also watched Baby Driver, which I gave 5 stars. This was excellent. The end was carnage and like a western showdown. The music was phenomenal. So much character development in Baby and how he got in that situation, but the romance, again, it was too insta-lovey for me. 2 sittings I watched this in, and I wish I watched it all at once. I then watched something on Netflix again called The Water Horse Legend of the Deep, which I gave 4 stars. So this came up as similar when I was trying to find Big Fish on Netflix, and it came back to me that I wanted to watch this years ago and just didn't get around to watching it. So basically a young boy finds an egg that turns into a Loch Ness monster, but he struggles to keep the secret as it grows and obviously gets harder to hide. It's set on the backdrop of World War II, so military pressure makes the secret all that much more pressurizing. This was so good, so much so that I was dreading the inevitable discovery and possible fallout from it. It shows the denial of grief, friendship, family bonds, and of course magic. Lots of magic. I adored the narration of it too. I reckon it would have been an amazing experience in the cinema when it was first released. One thing though I really didn't get is the change in the captain at the end. Anyway, it gave me all these exciting feelings that I used to get reading My Secret Unicorn. Just thought I'd added that in there. Taking it to December now, I went to the cinema to check out Knives Out, which I gave 5 stars. This was fantastic. I hadn't heard anything about it. My friends went to see it and it was amazing. It's like a funny Cluedo murdery mystery sort of thing with a fantastic cast, and I would definitely recommend watching it if you haven't yet. I watched The Little Mermaid, the 2018 one on Netflix. I gave 1 star unfortunately. So this was the film with Prince Edward, or whatever his name was, from Narnia, and the trailer on YouTube had everyone saying this ain't it. Probably due to the major circus theme, everyone was saying this isn't the original Little Mermaid, why have they taken the name? But it's completely different, like it's not even, it only has a mermaid but the whole story is completely different to it. So everyone was saying it's shit, like they were not happy at how it was sold. It's like they almost wanted to use the name. It could have been a complete different mermaid film, but they wanted to use the Little Mermaid to sort of lure you in, because I think at that time there was a situation where they were talking about the live action but it wasn't confirmed yet. Everyone thought Ariana Grande was going to like headline it. So that was the time the trailers came out, so they were like really surprised. But yeah, I still decided to check it out. I started it at the Tower end of November and got back to it a few days after. It was pretty cringe and rather dull. The romance was rather sudden as well. Honestly, I wouldn't watch it again. Like, it was alright, but yeah, it just wasn't really my kind of thing. Then again, getting back into Christmassy vibes, I watched The Christmas Apprentice, which I gave 3.5 stars. So Riley's sent to a small town by her business firm to close down an underperforming company. And when she gets there and starts to know the people and what they stand for, she finds it difficult to go through with this by disappointing her boss, but staying true to herself. So this turned out to be way more enjoyable than I expected. It's just a random thing that I saw on like Channel 5 and recorded it for later. Honestly, hella cringy, over-exaggerated acting, but entertaining plot that I actually ended up care about. So yeah, if this is on again next year, I'd probably stick it on whilst wrapping presents and stuff. It was enjoyable for sure. I watched a Netflix one called The Night Before Christmas. I gave this 3 stars. So a medieval knight is thrown through time to a modern day Ohio where he falls in love with a school teacher who's had enough of love. The school science teacher is, I can't remember her name now. You know, Gabriella from High School Musical, what's her name? Yeah, this was alright. It was enjoyable. Some scenes that gripped me and I'd look up more and like be invested in it, but other times I could sort of just look away and not really need to follow what was going on to get what was happening, if you know what I mean. Then I watched Last Christmas at the cinema, 5 stars. This was amazing, hilarious, so emotional. I guessed the twist, but it didn't last long because my boyfriend had a more like practical suggestion. But oh my gosh, when things came first full circle, I sobbed so damn hard. At first, I did wonder about all the George Michael stuff. Like, I guess it's kind of just a quirk of the main character, and the song title of the film really makes sense as the story progresses, but it kind of put me generally in like a funky reflected mood afterwards. So again, kind of like the Joker, I'd have to, although they're complete different films, I'd have to kind of go into it when I'm in a particular mood, because although it was hilarious and that, oh man, it just made me sob and it made me feel so strange afterwards. Then I went out with some friends and I went to see Dream Boys live. I saw like the audition and then some of the professional performers dancing and stuff afterwards, and that was intense. That is all, moving swiftly on. So I watched The Rise of the Guardians, which I gave 3 stars. I remember when everyone was cosplaying Jack Frost and everyone was raving about this film, and I've only now just seen it, but actually maybe I've seen some of it. because some scenes definitely feel familiar. But anyway, let's forget Jack for a minute. Santa's kind of hot. It was entertaining. I loved seeing the growth of Jack in particular, but all of the Guardians coming together was super, super cool. I also watched Klaus, which I gave it 4 stars, another Netflix original film, following a selfish postman and a reclusive toy maker teaming up to deliver toys to a town that could use the joy, quite honestly. I loved the animation style, and what an overall beautiful film this was. It's such a unique Santa Claus origin story, having some lovely friendships, and it really tugged at my emotions. It was funny and sad and heartwarming, and honestly it was way more emotional than I expected. I'm so glad I decided to check that out. Then I watched Bad Mums and Bad Mums at Christmas, but I'll talk about Bad Mums at Christmas. So I rewatched Bad Mums before, I had watched Bad Mums before, which was super funny, so I just wanted to rewatch it so I'd remember people, characters and that for this Christmas one. Did I say I gave this 4 stars? I can't remember. But the end interviews with their mums was just as beautiful and got me even more after the loss of mine. Anyway, the second film adds to their stressed lives when their own mums show up for Christmas. Is Amy's mum one of those who's in the Grinch? She looks like one of those Who people, you know, in the film, of course. It was so much fun. Really loved this. Another one of those crazy films I'd be happy to check out over and over again. It kind of gives me like girls trip vibes. I love that sort of stuff, even though, you know, you kind of don't need to pay attention, but it's just one of those films that I enjoy to just stick on. I checked out Angela's Christmas, which I gave 3 stars. It's only a short film, but a very sweet one. I wanted to watch more when I saw that the lead singer of the Cranberries had sang the main song in this. I think she passed away a couple of years ago, so I remember like just before this was like pushed out that she had a song that she wrote or sang in it or whatever. But anyway, it was super delightful and I definitely recommend it. I watched Father Christmas. I haven't seen the Briggs adaptation in years. I love this grumpy Father Christmas. He's so rude. I didn't remember much at all. I also watched The Snowman and The Snowman and the Snow Dog. These films are always so melancholy. Then I watched a random film. Well, it's not random, but it was randomly put on when I was at my boyfriend's dad's house, and it's called Mute. I gave it 3 stars. Then I watched Jumungi, the 1995 one and the 2017 one. And I gave them a 4 stars and a 5 stars. And I've been meaning to rewatch this for the longest time as a refresher of the original, so I could fully appreciate the new remakes. Lots of stuff I had forgotten, but it was very enjoyable. I followed up straight away by watching the 2017 release. The first new one was so funny and really entertaining. I don't understand how a certain character remembered things though, if by the same logic in the original some characters don't, but I still enjoyed it. And lastly, for December, I watched The Tiger Who Came to Tea for 4 stars. So I was super excited for this one. I love these book to film adaptations that Channel 4 do every Christmas. The tiger kind of scared me, but I liked the story. I hadn't read the book before, like it was never one of those children books that I read when I was a kid, like must have just missed it. But yeah, I enjoyed it. So that wraps up all the films I watched in the last couple of months of 2019. Let's bring on 2020. Abrázame toda la noche.